Hey, Dr. Pepper, Dr. Pia, Pastor Cal, 5 for 5, right? 5 for 5? 5 for 5? How's 0 for 5 for y'all? Let's get into it.
Get this mic off of me. I'm going home. That was bullshit. That was an ambush. Fuck y'all. Get this goddamn mic off.
Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. My name is Lex, and I would greatly appreciate if you would consider supporting the channel by liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing. Also, please hype the videos if you can. It all inspires me to keep creating. Thank you guys so much for being here for the Married at First Sight content. We are at the final stretch. This is season 19, episode, I believe 14 or 13, child, it'll be in the title, but it is the reunion. Thank you guys for having patience with this video. I was out of town this weekend and also not feeling well. So I've actually seen this since last Friday, but I just did not get a chance to record. Let's talk about it because I don't know. I don't read much of the streets, so I didn't know any of this. So maybe all of this has already been knowledge that y'all already do, but I thought this reunion was I was like, oh, I had my mouth open a couple of different times. So let's jump in. So we get to the reunion. Everybody is on the couches. I'm not going to talk about the fits. The guys was given, barring Josh, I believe. The guys was given, I'm going to a backyard barbecue after this. Pat had on like a bomber jacket and a t-shirt. Same with Will. Those two could not care less. While all the girls were dressing to the nines, it was given, I'm trying to make y'all jealous, even though these men, they don't care, girl. They do not care, clearly, by this reunion. So we find out all of the girls are very close. And by the way, they are seated, all guys on one couch, all girls on the other couch. You already know what that means. But we find out the girls are very close. Britney and Megan apparently are particularly very close. They work out at Ep14 together. We also find out that Megan and Chad are pretty close. Not surprising. But anywho, we find out they are pretty close as well. They work underneath each other. And then we jump into these couples. We start off with Jaylen and Josh, and we get some updates about the Burning Man situation. And we find out that Jaylen actually went to Burning Man.
Good time. I look good, too. I was up till 6 a.m.
Great ass.
Josh.
We get some pictures on screen. She was there. She said she had a good time. But Kevin is like, all right, enough of that. You went to Burning Man. You had fun. Are y'all two together? They are not together.
We are no longer together. We broke up 3 months ago.
Wow.
And
Is anybody surprised that they are not together? Child, Josh, I said it during the season and I will say it again. Josh very clearly was physically attracted to Jaylen. He was not attracted to her personality. And for what it's worth, I also don't really think Jaylen was attracted to him. Their relationship definitely was not about to be sustainable because it was definitely giving that Jaylen was going to do a bunch of things to try to show Josh, look, I am adventurous. I am adventurous. When at the end of the day, Josh just wanted to, I don't know, go meet a girl at Burning Man. That's what Josh needed to do. Basically, we find out that 3 months ago, they broke up, and Jaylen claims that it was out of nowhere. They were on vacation, he sat her down, and he basically said, look, I don't feel connected to you, and I want to break up with you. Jaylen, girl, you should have known. From the minute that Josh was making such a big deal about community and about them finding something together and about the fact that she didn't want to go to Burning Man, all of this was just a call for he doesn't feel like they are compatible personality-wise. And that's all cool and good. Josh also should have said no, but it was so obvious. Again, so many couples have different things that they come together and share. So many couples don't necessarily have the same interests. But again, if you are a person where this is very important to you, then it's obviously going to be a deal breaker. And it was clear for Josh. It made no sense in that final dinner they had where he's like, no, I don't even care. I don't even want to go to Burning Man anymore. Like, what are you talking about? You was on the couch boo-hoo crying, having a meltdown because she didn't want to go. And again, it's not just on Josh because it's also on Jaylen. to have that recognition that this is big. And you know what? I have to give Jaylen a couple of points because during the season, Jaylen did keep saying things like, I don't know, maybe you should go be with somebody who does share your interests. And we all thought she was kind of just being melodramatic, but I think that deep down inside, she was picking up that this is a really, really big thing for Josh. And I think more so, which I do think I pointed out, I think Jaylen was also using that as masking language for the fact that she felt like they weren't compatible either. I think both of them knew they were not compatible. They just did not want to say it. Jaylen says for her, this was completely out of left field. She had no idea. I don't know, Jaylen girl. Now, I do get it. I think it is pretty messed up to break up on vacation. It's obviously his word against hers. We don't know because Josh claims that they didn't even break up on vacation. They actually broke up at home. And she's like, no.
Happen for you? What changed for you?
Well, first of all, we didn't break up on vacation. We broke up at home. So that's
well, actually,
not true.
So she says that on vacation, she begged him to work on it, to not do this here. And then 3 days later, they went to a concert. And then at the concert, they had some kind of back and forth where he basically at home then told her, or in the car, I believe, then told her that they were not going to work out. But before that, apparently at the concert, a girl kind of came up to him and was looking at him. The way they told the story was very weird. She made it seem like a girl kind of came up and acted like she knew him, but he was like trying to act like he didn't see this girl ever. So I guess Jaylen asked, did you F her? Did you F her? Did you F her? And it's like, uh-oh. So at this point, Josh wants to storm out the concert and leave, and they get into the car, and he tells her again he does not want to be with her and that to pack her stuff and get out, basically, which is crazy work. But this is what I'm talking about. Why are we begging men to stay with us that do not want us? I'm sorry. Do not ever let somebody tell you no 2 and 3 and 4 times. Because this is what happens. And trust and believe, Josh always was shady to me. So Josh supposedly tells her the reason that he doesn't want to be together is because she's a 2 on the adventure scale and he's a 10. Jaylen says, oh, I went to a bunch of raves though. I went to concerts. I went to all the things that you wanted to do. And I'm like, again, Jaylen, this is why. This is what I'm talking about. At the end of the day, chemistry has to be something that is mutually felt between both people. Yes, I understand to some level compromising on what your partner wants, but that needs to be reciprocated. All I'm hearing is that Jaylen went to this, Jaylen went to that. Jaylen tried to prove that she's somebody that she's not. When what did Josh do? Go to one cycling class that we saw him go to during the season and then had the nerve and audacity to complain about that cycling class later on and throw it back at her face? No. This is what I'm talking about. Stop doing a bunch of things for people who aren't doing those things for you. Because you're not going to convince him to like you. Josh was clearly looking for a very specific type of woman. And I don't know what that woman is. Like I said, he needs to go to Burning Man and meet a girl that's outdoorsy and loves to do all that. I don't even know. Do all that stuff that he likes to do and go skydiving every 3 months. He needs to go meet that girl. Josh once again claims that he was losing himself, trying to get Jaylen to love his passions. Yeah, Josh, because people aren't plug and plays and carbon copies of things. That's just reality. People have different interests. Again, don't come on a show where you get married at first sight, where they're going to pair you with any and everyone. Go find the person that you're looking for if you're so particular about things. In any case, he claims that he wants someone that has the same passion that he does, and that Jaylen apparently would keep asking him if he was happy every single day. And again, that was just her. That was her internally picking up that something was off. But the thing is, Jaylen should have also taken that initiative as well. When you pick that up, take the initiative, then don't be asking somebody 5 and 6 times. You know, this is the moral of the story for all these people. Stop begging people. Stop begging people on all sides. Because, okay, if I'm going to give Josh a say, why are you begging someone to like your stuff? If you see she doesn't like it, be a man and get out. You can't control people. And then Jaylen, you see that something does not feel right internally. So be a strong woman and realize this is not it. I don't know. These two irritated me because I just feel like we all saw it was not working. What was even there between these two? I don't know, but he said he realized he was not happy. Then they jump into some more of Josh's lies. Surprise, surprise. Someone that opened a relationship lying to you is still lying. Apparently, Jaylen had asked Josh about his assistant, and he said that the assistant was in her 40s, just some older lady. But then Jaylen found out that actually the assistant was in her 20s, and she just wondered why Josh randomly had to lie about stupid stuff like that. And I'm like, again, when someone establishes a pattern of lying, they're going to lie about everything. They're going to lie about little things. That's how it is. But they do ask Josh, or Kevin asks Josh, hey, are you going on any dates? And Josh says that he's went on a date or two. And Jaylen's like, actually, I was sent a video of you out all over a girl. They put it on screen.
Videos. They got videos of Josh with all over someone, which is fine. If that's his girlfriend, that's great. I don't need
him making out with this girl. So, okay, if you have a new girlfriend, cool, but don't be trying to act like you just went on a date here and a date there. And I'm like, y'all two just need to split. Don't ever speak again. I believe Jaylen is still single. So that's Josh and Jaylen. That's all she wrote. Then we get on to Jaylen's mama, Belinda. Kevin jumps right into it. Y'all two still married? Nope. Nope. They are not still married. Belinda explains that for her on the honeymoon, everything was great. She felt like they were connected. But as soon as they got back to the shared apartment, that's when things started to get wonky.
Apartment and everything changed.
What changed?
Well, the intimacy level changed.
On who?
Belinda says for her, the intimacy changed. And she's not typically somebody who would initiate, but sometimes she would tell Chad, like, hey, we can do stuff. Okay. Belinda was even willing to throw the dog out of the bed. You know, I guess Chad just, according to her, he was not feeling it. Now, Chad talks about how he really does not sleep at all. And remember, Chad's a combat veteran, so I'm sure there's probably something there with that, without obviously being an armchair diagnoser. But he talks about how he does not sleep. He might fall asleep at 1 or 2 a.m. So for him, he just had a really hard time when it came to having the dog in the house, the filming, all of these different changes. He hated the shared apartment. And while I feel bad for Chad, I don't feel that bad because you signed up for a TV show. Now, Belinda says the biggest issue for her was the drinking and drinking and drinking. And again, we only got that in the very end because she would say, wind down, wind down, wind down. We didn't know. We obviously find out that's him drinking. Belinda says that every single night he would be on the couch drinking, and it would be to the point where sometimes he would fall asleep with the glass in his hand and she would have to take it out of his hand because she was scared he would drop it on the ground. Now, Chad's making all kind of faces over there, and I'm like, here we go. And again, the drinking thing, I'm not going to get into it. Everybody has different boundaries for it, but it's very clear that for Belinda, drinking is an issue in her partner. So they start to talk about the dissolution of the relationship. Basically, after decision day, it seems like Belinda moved into Chad's house. Chad has a cat, and then Belinda has her dog. So apparently, one day, his cat got super anxious around Belinda's dog and like dug her claws into his chest. And so because of that, Chad got overwhelmed when that happened and basically pushed down the dog. And that became a whole incident right there. Now, everything I know, when I got my 2 cats, we had to do an integration system. We didn't just throw them into a house together. So why they just threw the dog and the cat in the house together without slowly integrating themselves, I don't know, but okay, anyway. Then they show some clips of them together after decision day. All the couples, they're at a little backyard barbecue.
And so, you know, at the end of the day, I don't think that this is anything that you guys can't work through.
That's up to her. And I'm not gonna play second fiddle to a fucking dog. I'm just not gonna. I'm done. I'm not talking about this anymore.
Of course.
Oh, of course. Of course.
No. Let's not.
And Chad is very frustrated with the dog. He's talking to all the guys, talking about how this dog is too much for him. He can't take it. So everyone tries to sit Chad down and tell him the dog's not a deal breaker. The dog's not a deal breaker. Like, it's okay. You guys can work through it. And Belinda's just sitting there. She's not saying much. It's clear that they're very, very tense. Chad gets very frustrated in this scene and he's like, I don't want to talk on camera. And Jaylen chimes in and is like, of course. And then he's like, yeah, of course, to Jaylen. I was like, ah. Now, Belinda, why didn't you step up for your daughter? Because I know you're not letting this man get mouthy with your daughter. Now, yes, I know Jaylen threw the first shot, but why did Belinda step in? When I was watching this clip, I just felt like Belinda was standing there. And even during the reunion, I feel like Belinda was very quiet. She didn't say a lot. You see yet another scene of Chad snapping at production. At this point, it's old. It's tired. He's rude. I'm sorry, he's rude. Okay, it's one thing for this to happen once. I still would not find that to be acceptable. But I could see how some people could kind of compartmentalize it and move on. He's rude. He's disrespectful. I'm sorry. You signed up for this TV show. So Kevin is asking him for his side of the story. Because again, Chad's sitting there on the couch. He making all kind of faces. What did Chad say? Shut up and let me tell my side. I'm like,
If you want me to tell my side of the story, then shut up and let me tell my side of the story.
somebody needs to rein this man. This is why this man has four ex-wives. 4. This is why. So Chad does try to apologize yet again. He says there was a lot going on. He was overwhelmed. He struggled with his reactions. And again, I'm just wondering why Belinda said yes. We know why Belinda said yes, because she literally told us that she said yes because she didn't want to be single. Girl, when somebody shows you that they demonstrate this behavior, this is not going away. It's not going away. Chad's been like this the whole time. This is why none of his other relationships have worked out. Because Chad's nice when you're doing what he wants. When you're giving what he wants. When he's being performative. He does behavior that resembles love bombing. I'm not going to call him a love bomber because I don't know. But he resembles love bombing. But as soon as Chad gets frustrated, he blows up. He blows up, he blows up, he blows up. He sees red. That's concerning. That's scary. Pat chimes in and says that he got multiple texts from Chad about production and how much he was struggling, but Chad does have a heart of gold. Okay. Belinda says that for her, this entire incident triggered her because if he's going to treat production like that, he would eventually treat her like that. And he did. And yes, Belinda, very smart. See, this is the thing about Belinda, is that some things about Belinda irritate me, but I do feel like Belinda is very introspective and she knows. She knows. You knew on decision day that you didn't want to say yes to him. So why'd you do it? They jump into the Josh incident about production and the text messages. Josh, the liar, the literal absolute liar, says, I don't remember anything about production. I don't recall that. Once again, Jaylen chimes in and says that she also doesn't know anything about that. She didn't see it. And Chad is like, I'm not being dishonest. I know what I said. I don't remember the exact words, but I know what we talked about. We would use each other as a sounding board. I don't think Chad's lying about that. I don't, personally. But we find out for Belinda that she is dating now. She happened to find someone unexpectedly, and things are going well for her. Jaylen has met the guy, and she says that he's sweet. So good for her. Then we get to Britney and Will. Also not together and have not spoken in a year and a half.
Will, I want to ask you right now, what is the current state of your relationship with Britney?
There isn't one. We haven't spoken in a long time.
So we find out for the two of them, they left after decision day. And although they said yes, for Will, things were going badly. He knew it was a wrong decision. Again, in what world, after being coerced to say yes, do you think things would go well? I have some questions for people. I really do.
Her, and I didn't want to see her sad either. She was crying. And I mean, I know it made things more difficult by saying no, then saying yes, and then being gone for 3 or 4 days.
We see some diary cam footage of them talking. Britney is trying to ask Will, how do you feel after all those conversations we had? How do you feel about everything we talked about on decision day? And Will basically says, I really don't want to do this anymore. I can't do this anymore. I'm done. And then we see like a flash, and then we see him walking out with his suitcases. Again, I'm going to come on to you, Will, because you knew. You knew you didn't want to be with Britney. You knew. You've known since the situation on the honeymoon. I'ma keep it real. I think he knew since she walked out. But okay, let's give him the benefit of the doubt. You knew since that incident on the honeymoon with the boom boom. And I respect that because I'm sorry, nobody wants to feel coerced into having sex with somebody. So I get it. You knew since then that you didn't want to be with her, though. You knew that it was going to be too much for you. Why? Why did you say it? They must have been cutting y'all some checks. Kinetic must have been cutting y'all some checks because it does not make sense. We see Britney as Will's walking out the door with his suitcases on the diary cam saying, no, you don't mean that. Tell me you love me. Tell me you love me. Tell me you love me. Britney's basically sitting here telling him, no, you don't mean that. You love me. I'm like, girl, no means no. How many times do we need to repeat this on this show? If someone tells you no, do not let them tell you no multiple times. But she's sitting there saying, tell me you love me. Tell me you love me. And I'm like, no. But Will says that's not going to help. And then he just leaves. So the next day they have a pool party. All these little events that all the couples had after this show. But they had a pool party with all of the couples where they're talking. Britney is looking real upset, real sad. Will is quiet. The two of them are rigid.
What have I done that's so bad to where you have to treat me like I'm nothing?
Treating you like you're nothing.
Well, the way you talk to me.
Am I allowed to speak?
So Britney is asking Will, what did I do to you to make you feel like I'm nothing? To make you treat me like I'm nothing? And Will's like, I wanted it to end now. I couldn't keep having you tell me that I don't love you. I'm not trying. I'm not enough. Blah, blah, blah. Monotonal Will. Britney's like, no, I said I'm not enough. I'm not enough. I didn't say you weren't enough. I'm not enough. And it's enough to divorce me. So Will explains that for him, he was very cold with his mannerisms when he was telling her that he was done, because in the past, he was told by her, I guess. He didn't really say, but he said he was told in the past that using softer mannerisms when saying no gave her false hope, even though he was saying no. I have to give it to Will. That's true. Because we've seen that. We've literally seen that on screen where he'll try to be like, I'm done. And Britney's crying and begging him to not say that. So I'm not saying that it's right to be cold, but sometimes you have to be firm. I think cold is a bad word, but maybe firm. Because I do think that someone like Britney, like we saw on Decision Day, like we saw even here in the pool party, like we've seen in other scenes, she has begged and pleaded and cried with him to try to get him to change his mind. So we then learn from Will after the breakup, Britney called multiple times saying very rude stuff to the point where he blocked her.
I'm sorry,
They said that you'd been there more than once.
who was they?
People in the leasing office.
Never
Okay,
know.
see.
The only time that I was there was when I dropped off that letter.
But then after he blocked her, apparently she wrote him a letter, went to drop it off at his apartment, and showed up multiple times. To the point where his leasing office told him that she's been here multiple times. And I was like, she stopped you? That's not okay. To the Britney defenders. Does Britney need to see the lady yet? Just asking. Because she stalked this man. She literally showed up at this man's residence with a letter that she wrote him after he blocked her, after he broke up with her, after he told her no. I'm not trying to even be like funny for videos. I really think Britney needs help. Because that is concerning ass behavior. You showed up at this man's house? Britney tries to say, that's not true. That's not true. He's like, my leasing office told me. She's like, well, Jaylen lives there too. And he's like, no. Like they literally told me that you were going to my door. Cause she wrote him a letter. And you want to know the crazy thing? Will said he ain't even read that letter. Shit, I wouldn't have either. I would have thrown that right in the trash because what are we doing? What? Now, Britney claims she never thought Will was a bad person. And even though she would constantly claim that he didn't love her, she found out that she was actually just digging for more. Okay. She claims the Britney today is a lot less reactive, has been through therapy, has done a lot of healing, and would never act like this again. Y'all, run. At least she's seeing the lady, though. She said she went to therapy. I don't know. I just can't believe we sat here and said that this woman stalked this man, and then we kind of just were like, anyway, Rhonda and Pat, also not married. So we find out that they were together for 9 months after decision day, which is crazy. That's a lot longer than I thought it was going to be. But then Pat went to Europe for a trip and Rhonda did not come because she had a lot going on. I guess with the filming, she had to reschedule a lot of stuff. So Pat came back and they were the best they had ever been, according to Rhonda. They were happy. They were hand in hand at events. He was attentive. He was listening. Things couldn't have been better. So one day Rhonda woke up and they were going to go on a bike ride and she sees Pat on the patio meditating and he's doing a meditation on anger. And she's like, huh? So she asks him, have you been angry? He said that he's not angry yet, but he could feel himself getting there. So they get deeper into a conversation and they hadn't had boom boom in 10 days since Pat had gotten back. And basically, Pat said that his emotional needs were not being met. Now, Rhonda goes in, and basically Rhonda's like, I'm not gonna lie, we didn't. And for me, it was hard for me to get into the mood due to Pat's insecurity.
He was very insecure, and that insecurity was a complete turnoff romantically.
She brings up the fact that he so easily changed his mind on decision day, but for Rhonda, she still wanted to see what things were going to look like off camera. However, once they got together, it became very clear that Pat equated sex to a relationship. I think y'all are not gonna like what I have to say. I heard Rhonda when she was speaking here. I have personally been in circumstances with insecure men. I'm trying not to put myself on blast, but I've been in situations with men that were insecure. And yes, there was a huge component to sex and such a heavy emphasis on that to the point where that was more important than anything in our entire relationship. I feel where Rhonda's coming from, where sometimes there are things that just become less attractive in a sexual way when certain things happen. And I did clock Pat on decision day for changing his mind. Pat is passive. Okay, we've seen part of Pat's personality being very passive. Do I think that justifies a lot of Rhonda's other behavior? I do not. But I can understand how him being so passive was kind of a turnoff. I know, y'all gonna be mad at me because I know that Rhonda is not. But in that particular situation, at least I've been there in a situation where it felt like my partner was pressing me so hard to do the boom boom with them. And it's like, I'm just not feeling that. And then they would equate that to how I felt about the entire relationship. And it's like, there's more to it than just that. At least for me, because Rhonda goes on to say that she wants an emotional connection and then everything else kind of comes with it. And I'm the same way, where for me, the emotional connection has to be there first, the friendship, whatever. Now, do I think Rhonda's at fault for some of that emotional connection not being there? Absolutely. We see the way that Rhonda talks to this man, but I understood what she was saying. And the thing is, unfortunately, Pat did not step up and like defend himself or give a further explanation on a lot of this. So I have to take it that he's agreeing with a lot of what Rhonda was saying, but I don't know because he's really passive. Pat says that he interpreted the lack of sex to her losing respect for him. Rhonda says that she feels like he was looking for a wife, but not necessarily her. And again, I've been in relationships where I've had that feeling. Now, I think Rhonda was also just looking for a plug and play husband. Let's keep it a stack. Rhonda was definitely just looking for someone to boost her ego. I just feel like I understand from like maybe a woman's standpoint what Rhonda was talking about in terms of like putting so much emphasis on that. I don't know. Rhonda does say, though, that in this relationship, she learned to let things flow, to surrender, and not to try to be so type A. I'm like, girl, you know you're the same, Rhonda. I should say, ma'am, okay? She's 60. Ma'am, you know that you are the same person. But I do think that we didn't get to highlight a lot of Pat and maybe the insecurity, the passivity, some of the downfalls of Pat because Rhonda was so much. But I definitely think that here we're able to see some of the areas in which Pat also falls short. And then we have Megan and Derek. We open up and we find out that Megan had a miscarriage.
I had a miscarriage.
And in retrospect, that definitely makes a lot of sense as to the way that their scenes were edited. I imagine they probably edited out a lot of the scenes talking about the baby and having further conversations due to the outcome. And I am very sorry for Megan. That is very, very traumatizing, no matter how early you are. And I know sometimes when people are trying to conceive, that's why they encourage women not to test so early, because there is a higher chance when you're so early to have an early miscarriage or a chemical pregnancy. So I do feel for Megan regardless. She was excited, and it is hard to go through a miscarriage for sure. So they talk about how they were on a high after they said yes on decision day, and they got the news pretty much directly after that Megan had the miscarriage. So Megan says when they got the news of the miscarriage, everything changed between them. Everything clashed. And I'm like, Megan, Derek wanted to use you as an incubator. An incubator. He did not care who is there to put those 3 babies into. He wanted to use you as an incubator. And when you say his whole demeanor changed up as soon as you miscarried that child, Derek is nasty. Derek is a scary and nasty type of guy. Nope. So Megan says that they were both very stubborn, and she even suggested couples therapy for them. So they had a very bad fight, and basically he broke up with her over the phone and then moved out a week later. Derek chimes in and says he knew that she was not his person and he was not hers either.
And when we were fighting, I told Megan I didn't love her anymore.
Derek broke up with me over the phone.
He claims it wasn't fair to them. Derek, shut that. You just wanted to use that woman as an incubator, and that's disgusting. That is disgusting and scary behavior. Some of the people on this have behavior that is actually highly alarming to me. But in either case, Megan goes on and says that for her, she had a moment where she could not remember any of the good things from their relationship. And I'm like, because there was none. Let's keep it a stack. You guys fought the entire honeymoon. You fought when you got to the apartment. Then you found out you were pregnant. And then we saw you guys building up the house. And I imagine there was probably more good stuff in between that we didn't see. But you guys really didn't have that much good stuff. That's why. You guys were together for like 8 weeks or whatever. 2, 3 months, 4 months, right? So for her, it scared her because she really could not remember any of the good things that happened in their relationship. But she says that everything came flooding back a little while later today. And so Kevin asked the real questions and says, if you were not pregnant, would you have said yes? She says she does not know. Derek chimes in and says, regardless of the outcome of the pregnancy, neither one of us were happy. So this was always going to be the outcome no matter what, that we weren't going to be together. And Megan's like, oh, so you're just going to invalidate the whole relationship now? And I was like, I don't know. That just felt tasteless to say. It just felt very tasteless to say. It really gave that he discarded her right after the pregnancy. Like, you guys know this relationship to me was alarming, right? taking the pregnancy out. Yes, I agree with Derek that the two of them were not going to be together. They clashed on everything. They fought on everything. But I feel like it just felt very tasteless to coldly say that. And Megan was hurt. And I can understand that because it's giving, you couldn't do it. I'm on to the next one. They talk about their dating lives though, and Megan does share that she's been on some dates. In those dates, she feels very seen. She's trying to like kind of humble brag about it a little bit. She's like, I'm not trying to be like, you know, tit for tat. And Derek's like, oh, well, I've been with someone new for 7 months. And she's amazing. She can't wait to be a mom. We get along super well. I was like, okay. Megan's like, well, it's odd because I definitely saw him on Raya, a dating app, 2 months ago. But sure, he's been in a relationship for 7 months. And apparently she sent the picture to Jaylen and to Britney and some of the other girls. It's the best. That's our reunion, y'all. I've been talking for a long time. We are 0 for 5, as we should have been before. Experts, y'all need to find new methods because this show's success rate is abysmal. This show has like a 2% success rate. But I'ma still be seated to watch it. So anyway, if you made it to this point of the video, that means you liked the video. So I would greatly appreciate if you would consider supporting the channel by liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing. Also, please hype the videos if you can. I do recap other content on this channel. Maths is over, but Love is Blind Italy is coming out, and I'm gonna give that a stab. So stay tuned for that, and stay tuned for all the other stuff coming. We have a lot of shows coming in the new year. We got Traders, we got the Ultimatum, we have why can't I think of these shows? Temptation Island. There's a lot of new shows coming back. Beyond the Villa for Love Island is coming, I know, early next year. So we have a lot of content coming. I hope you stick around. Thank you guys for supporting the Maths content, and I'll talk to you guys in my next one. Bye.